and I'll jump in, starting at fact 47. Holy man / tribal chief. Sitting Bull was a tribal chief of the Hunkpapa Lakota Sioux tribe because of his defiance against the US government. He became symbolic of the struggles between the government and the natives in 1876. He and his people were able to defeat General Custer's army in the Battle of the Little Big Horn. Finally surrendering in 1881, he joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. In December of 1890, he was shot by police in an arrest attempt prompted by Indian agents who feared he would try to escape. Fact number 46. Apache leader. Native American leader Geronimo was fought against Mexico and the US in their efforts to expand the Apache tribal lands in what is now Arizona. He led several raids against both of them after his wife and children were killed by Mexican troops in the 1850s, and he was given his name for his bravery in battle, where he killed several Mexicans with a knife. Amid flying bullets, settlers believed he was the worst Indian who ever lived. But after his surrender to US troops in 1886, he converted to Christianity and even rode in Teddy Roosevelt's inaugural parade. Number 45. The Wild Bunch. Because of the movie named after them, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are frequently mentioned together. But it was actually Cassidy who founded the gang known as the Wild Bunch, of which the Sundance Kid was a member, alongside gunslingers Kid Curry and the Tall Texan. Fact number 44. The Wild West show. Also, just let me know if you don't mind me soft-spoken. Feel free to let me know in the comments. Buffalo Bill had a storied career, starting out as a rider for the Pony Express before he became an Army Scout and bison hunter. Bill recognised the amount of interest people had in life on the frontier and capitalised on it by founding Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. As the company grew, he toured all over the US before going over to Europe as well. Number 43. Violent Brothers. There were many famous outlaws in the Wild West, but perhaps none more so than Jesse James. But did you know that he was frequently accompanied in his exploits by his brother Frank James? They began their criminal careers as bushwhackers during the Civil War and moved on to running their own gang of outlaws. They robbed banks, trains and stagecoaches until Jesse James was killed by Robert Ford, one of his own gang members. Fact 41. The Spanish Territory. In addition to the Louisiana Purchase, Jefferson also wanted to claim Spanish Florida. In 1819, the Andes Onis Treaty, or control of Florida to the US and set a boundary between the US and New Spain. The treaty lasted for just about half a year, at which point Spain signed a treaty granting independence to Mexico. The Transcontinental Treaty then defined the border between Mexico and the US. Fact number 40. Incorporating Texas. When the newly independent Mexico temporarily suspended US immigration to Texas in 1830, the people started pushing for independence of Texas. Once that happened, they were eligible to join the United States and finally did in 1844. I did not know that. I always thought it was part of the US. Looks like we're all learning something. Fact number 39. It was destiny. The term manifest destiny was coined in 1845 when it was published in a summer issue of the Democrat Review. It described the philosophy that was behind the push for expansion into the West, and particularly Oregon territory. It held that the US was destined by God to expand their territory and to bring democracy to capitalism to the entire continent. To bring democracy and capitalism to the entire continent. Fact number 38. One more push. Once the Oregon territory was settled, President Polk was anxious to acquire California from Mexico. This led to the Mexican-American War, which ended with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The treaty granted the US 525,000 miles of territory, including what is now Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, and Wyoming. I really did not know half of this stuff. Fact number 37. Making the Wild West. And if anybody's actually wondering why I'm doing a bit of whispering and soft spoken, it's because someone did request for me to do it, so I just thought I'd give it a go on this channel. So yeah, feel free to comment below if you don't like it. Definitely won't take any offence. Number 37, making the Wild West. Sorry, I got sidetracked then. The pioneers who were settling in the West were faced with harsh conditions as well as violence that occurred as they forced Native Americans from their lands. This led to a breakdown in law and order and everyday struggle for survival. The Indian Wars, which were the result of increasing tensions between the natives and the settlers, made the West a dangerous place to be. Number 36. Protect and defend. Because of the dangerous climate of the West, the settlers had to come up with a way to protect themselves, and many took up the right to bear arms in order to defend themselves. Number 35. Natural phenomenon. St. Elmo's fire, or foxfire, is a phosphorescent light, which was often seen on the tips of cattle's horns, and occasionally on a horse's ears. It usually occurred on stormy nights or when there was electricity in the air. When the storm is fully charged, leaves, blades, or 34. Wild Camels. In 1855, the government used funds to buy and ship camels from Egypt. They thought that they would do better in the heat than horses would, making missions easier. When the Civil War broke out, a couple of years later, many camels escaped and bred, leaving hundreds of feral camels in the wilds of Texas. I did not know that. As if Texas has got camels. Fact number 33. Say cheese. In the time of the Wild West, convincing the public of an outlaw's death could be a challenge, so it became a custom to photograph the body. Outlaws were often posed upright against a wall and photographed as quickly as possible before they stiffened up. The photographs were also necessary to be used as proof for collecting rewards. Basically, if there was no picture, there was no guarantee the outlaw was dead. Fact number 32. Whitewashed. Despite what the movies suggest, as many as 1 in 4 cowboys were black. African American cowboys handled cattle, worked on ranches, tamed horses, and even appeared in rodeos. Somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 black cowboys are estimated to have been part of the cattle drives of the 19th century. Some were slaves brought to the West by their white owners, but many continued in the trade after emancipation. Fact number 31. Wildest place in the West. It's called the Wild West for a reason, and there's nowhere that name was embodied more than it was in Fort Griffin, Texas. I think everybody thinks of Texas as like cowboys and, well, I mean, definitely from the UK, that's what we would imagine in Texas. It's just cowboys, horses, rodeos. If you're from Texas, please don't take offence if it's not like that. I'm pretty sure everyone in America thinks everyone in the UK just drinks tea, which quite a lot do, but it was Fort Griffin in Texas, that's where we was. The town was built at the intersection of the West Fork of the Trinity River and the Clear Fork of the Brazos River in the north part of Texas. The fort was built on a hill overlooking the Brazos River and was originally designed to protect the ranchers and farmers who lived in the settlements below. The town quickly became a popular stopover for cowboys and outlaws, and by 1870, skirmishes with the Indians in the north were taking up most of their forces, and law enforcement became almost non-existent. As a result, the town got even rougher with the likes of Big Nose Kate. What a name that is, Big Nose Kate. Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp passing through. Big Nose Kate, eh? I bet she didn't give that name to herself. Fact number 30. The world's oldest profession. A common misconception about women in the Wild West is that they were all prostitutes. Well, I don't think that's true. Don't know who thought that. But this was not actually the case. Some women were wives and mothers, well, that's obvious, while other owned businesses, worked as physicians, or even became outlaws. What a stupid fact that is. I don't think anybody thought that. Feel free to comment if you did think that. Fact number 29. Western Bar. saloon with the swinging wooden doors and the hitching post out front. The original saloons were a little more than tents or shacks. As the town grew, the saloons became more permanent structures, growing similar to what is pictured in movies on TV. Number 28. Getting out of Dodge. The well-known expression, "get the hell out of Dodge," was used in the popular TV western Gunsmoke and referred to Dodge City, Kansas, which was a well-known hangout for gunslingers. In the 1870s, it became so well-known that when big companies needed fighting men to protect their businesses, they would look for them in Dodge. As one resident said, they feared neither God, man, nor the devil, and so reckless they would pit themselves like Ajax against lightning if they ran into it. Fact number 27. A contradiction in values. One of the most notorious criminals in the Wild West was James Killer Miller. Never heard of him. Who was a paid assassin and gunslinger. He was known to have killed at least 14 people, but according to legend, the number could have been as high as 50. He was also called Deacon Jim because he didn't smoke or drink and frequently went to church. He was eventually caught and put in jail in Oklahoma, where he ended up being killed by a lynch mob who stormed the prison and hung him in a barn. Also, guys, I am really sorry if you can hear me, son. I am recording this literally before I go to work, so everybody's up, and yeah, it's about 9 o'clock in the morning where I am. Number 26. Not a southpaw. An early photograph of Billy the Kid shows him with a gun belt on his left side, leading people to believe that he was left-handed. What people didn't realise was that the photograph was a mirror image due to the type of camera, which meant that his gun belt was actually on his right side and that he was not a lefty. Also of note was that the model of Winchester rifle that he carried only loaded on the right, and it would have therefore been impossible for him to carry it on his left side. Fact number 25. The original Mountain Man. In 1804, John Coulter took off on a journey to the west as part of Lewis and Clark's Corps of Discovery. After 2 years, most of the expedition members returned home, but Coulter decided to stick around and try to make it as a fur trapper. A famous story of Coulter's adventures pertains to a supposed run-in with the Blackfoot Indians. The band supposedly killed his partner, stripped Coulter naked, and gave him a head start before chasing after him. Coulter supposedly managed to outrun most of them before killing the closest pursuer with his own lance. It's also possible that he was the first white man to see Yellowstone National Park and a section of the Shoshone River in Wyoming became known as Coulter's Hell due to the geothermal activity in the area. Fact number 24. That's strong stuff. The whiskey that was sold in America, saloons, shooting skills was a wise idea for protecting their stuff and themselves. I cannot stand whisker. Really don't like it. Like Jack Daniels, anything like that, yeah, it's just not for me. Amaretto. I'm not too sure if that's a whisker. I think it is, to be honest, so I like that, so I guess I do. If I'm right, I'm probably wrong. Feel free to comment below if it's not a whisker. Yeah, feel free to let me know what it is. Number 23, Saloon Girls. The Wild West was a lonely place for men. In most towns, they outnumbered women 3 to 1, and in California, it was as much as 9 to 1. Wow. To help entertain the men, saloons would hire girls to dance with the men, sing to them, and basically keep them drinking and playing cards. Although they were often lumped in with prostitutes, they were not the same thing. Saloon girls were generally considered to be good girls and were usually treated like ladies. In addition, the money that they could make from one night's commission was often better than what men would make in a month. What is up with me this morning? Would make in a month. So very few would also be prostitutes. Being a saloon girl could also be quite dangerous, and it was customary for the girls to carry a small pistol or dagger for protection. I think everybody's seen like them small pistols. And I'm guessing it was something like that. Fact number 22. Most famous women in Arizona. Do you know what? I've read that wrong again. Most famous woman in Arizona. You can tell it's in the morning, can't you? Because my head is just not with it yet. As a teenager, Pearl Hart was more interested in adventuring than school. At age 17, she left her home in Canada to elope with the gambler Frederick Hart. When Hart turned out to be abusive, she left him and moved to Arizona. So she showed good on her. Where she met and married Joe Boot. Unable to make money at mining, the pair took up robbery. Well, talk about leaving one person for another. In 1899, she formed a plan to rob a stagecoach with Boot. They might have successfully gotten away, but they got lost in the desert and were caught. She became the second woman to rob a stagecoach, and the first not to be killed while doing so. She was pardoned after 18 months due to a lack of accommodation in the prisons for women. Fact number 21. A lucky symbol. Horses played an important role in settling the West, and along with the new settlers came folklore about horseshoes. According to superstition, horseshoes drove away evil spirits when nailed above a doorway or a sailing mast on a ship. Eventually, the spirit part became less important and they became a lucky symbol. The shoes became a common symbol of the West and could be found above doors and tossed onto pegs in a game of the same name. Fact number 20. Talk like a cowboy. The Wild West had a language all its own, and many phrases are still in use today. Oh, here we go, this will be fun. Belly aching means to complain. I know where I'm from, it doesn't. Walling. I don't know what that means. Am I reading that right? Cater, wailing. Also refers to complaining or to terrible singing. Oh my god. A fandango is a Spanish word party with lots of dancing. I've heard of that one before. If you have a desire for something, it's called hankering. And someone who is snooty or arrogant would be called highfalutin. If something doesn't amount to a hill of beans, it's essentially worthless. And to be angry is to be hopping mad. Well, if any of you use them words, feel free to let me know, because I'm pretty sure nobody says them. Well, to be honest, I wouldn't know. Not in the UK, we don't use it. I've heard of Fandango, that's it. Number 19, gold. In 1848, gold was discovered in California, which brought a rapid influx of settlers to the west. Over 175,000 people came to the west, hoping to strike it rich, and the period became known as the Gold Rush. Makes sense. I think everybody knows what the Gold Rush is. Number 18, short shootout. Over the years, the shootout at the OK Corral has become a famous story of the Wild West. But in truth, despite the involvement of 8 people, it only lasted about 30 seconds. And it didn't happen at the OK Corral. The shooting actually took place at the intersection of the 3rd Street and Fremont Street in Tombstone, Arizona, which is behind the corral. But the bloodshed involved was no exaggeration. 3 lawmen were injured and 3 cowboys were killed. Fact number 17, Lone Star. Texas is known as the Lone Star State for its flag with the singular 5-pointed star. But the symbol of the star originated with German settlers who would paint stars on their barns. The settlers brought many of their customs with them to Texas, and the barn star is the likely inspiration for the Texas flag. It's crazy that Texas has got its own flag and mad. Number 16, Westward Ho. Many of the settlers coming to the west travelled along a path known as the Oregon Trail, which started at Independence in the east to Oregon City in the west. Many people died on the journey, succumbing to illness or conflict with the Native Americans who were defending their land. It was from this westward movement that the image of the wagon trail seen in movies was derived, as well as one of the greatest early computer games mankind has ever seen. Despite how frustrating having your family repeatedly die of cholera can be. Number 15, the Widowmaker. Del Mar, Nevada, became a Wild West town known for the dangerous conditions of its mines. In 1889, gold was discovered in nearby Monkey Wrench Gulch, and within a few years, Del Mar grew to a population of 1,500, with a hospital, a school, and multiple saloons. In 1893, a mill was built to refine the gold, and it exposed the miners and the townspeople to silicon dust, which when breathed in could damage the lungs and cause death. At one point, there were as many as 400 widows living in Del Mar, which gave its reputation as the Widowmaker. The mill was torn down in 1909, and though the mines briefly restarted, they also ceased. By 1934, all the residents had moved away, and the town was abandoned. Miss Ivers was born in England but moved with her family to America in 1865 and was sent to a girls' boarding school. She moved west and became notorious for her skills at the poker table. Whether she got her skills from her dad or from her gambler husband is unknown, but she became queen of the card table and earned the nickname Poker Alice. She was known for smoking cigars, wearing the most expensive dresses money could buy, and for being an expert at counting cards. She even had a catchphrase that went something like, "Praise the Lord and place your bets. I'll take your money with no regrets." It's said that she won about 250,000 in her lifetime. Wow. That amount of money back then is absolutely unbelievable. She must have been really skillful. Fact number 13. Notorious outlaw Billy the Kid was one of the most infamous outlaws in the Wild West. He claimed to have shot 21 people in his lifetime and was eventually shot by lawman Pat Garrett. Fact number 12. Big horned cattle. The Texas Longhorn is a type of cattle known for its fast horns. They were brought to the US by the Spanish and were central to cattle drives. The breed is known for its hardiness and abilities to survive the cattle drives across states like Colorado and Texas. Today, they are a common American symbol and can be found in steakhouse decor and in the University of Texas mascot. Do you know, I have always wanted to go to Texas and go to like a proper steakhouse. I think I was watching Man v Food once and I seen one and I just thought, wow, that's amazing. I've only ever been to America once and that was to Florida. I just feel like the portions of food over there are just massive compared to what we have over here. But yeah, I would really love to do that. There's quite a few places in America I'd love to try, to be honest. Fact number 11. Cowboy Kerchief. One item that cowboys couldn't live without was the bandana. It was used as a dust mask during cattle drives to protect the men from the dirt that was being kicked up by the cattle. It protected their necks from sunburn, their ears from the cold, and even worked as a pot holder for hot pots and branding irons. Outlaws also used the bandana as a mask to hide their faces while robbing the stagecoach or banks. They could be made of silk, linen or cotton, and most often were red. To wear a bandana, you'd fold it into a triangle and tie a knot behind the neck. Fact number 10. Properly attired. Other than a bandana, cowboys had other essential accessories. Chaps, which were actually pronounced shaps, were leggings designed to protect the cowboys' legs from contact with the animals and from injury caused by terrain where they were riding through. The chaps were made of leather or suede and would have a belt attached that cowboys used to buckle them over their trousers. Chaps are still used today in many horse-related activities, both for work and for show. Yeah, and that's where I've seen them as well, to be honest, on like rodeos and stuff like that. Fact number 9. Doc's sidekick. Mary Catherine Harone was born to wealthy parents but was tragically orphaned at age 14 and placed into foster care. Oh, bless her. She ran away from her foster home to marry a dentist, and when he died, she went to Texas, where she became a dance hall girl and prostitute. After meeting Doc Holliday, she followed him just seen a picture of her, and yeah, she does have a bit of a big nose, but I wouldn't say it's massive. Among her famous exploits was setting fire to an old shed as a distraction so that she could free Doc Holliday from incarceration. Fact number 8. Rowdy mining camp. Towards the end of the 19th century, Deadwood, South Dakota, was a pretty rough place. Gold was discovered there in 1868, but the government tried to keep it a secret to honour a treaty with the Lakota Sioux. In 1875, a miner found gold in the Deadwood Gulch, and within a year the town was overrun with miners anxious to get rich quick. Who doesn't want to get rich quick? But it's very rare that happens. You've got to put the time in the effort. As more and more brothels, saloons and gambling parlours sprang up, the danger increased. A Methodist minister was murdered while walking to church, and Wild Bill Hickok, who was a feature in the town, was shot in the back of the head during a poker game. Imagine living in these times. I feel like we're so lucky these days, and a lot of people definitely take it for granted. Number 7, the Cowboy Hat. Typical cowboy clothing was designed to withstand rough conditions and be warm and comfortable. In addition to the jeans, chaps and bandana, cowboys wore wide-brimmed hats called Stetsons, which would protect their head from the sun. Also essential for a cowboy were his guns and pistol, which would protect them from any dangerous characters they might meet along the way. Fact number 6. Weapon of choice. The 6-shooter revolver was the preferred weapon of gunfighters like Wild Bill Hickok, and is recognisable symbol of the Wild West. Today, the image of 2 crossed 6-shooters can be found on t-shirts, in sculptures and on gravestones throughout the West. Fact number 5. Dead Man's Hand. Wild Bill Hickok was probably the most legendary gunfighter in the West. He arrived in Deadwood, South Dakota, and was frequently found at the poker tables. According to legend, when he died, he was holding a pair of black acres and black eights, which later became known as the Dead Man's Hand. Fact number 4. Folk heroine. Annie Oakley was an expert marksman who became the first female superstar in what was traditionally a male profession. In 1875, she entered a shooting match with expert marksman Frank Butler, where to everybody's astonishment she beat him. She eventually married him, and in 1887 joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, where she became famous. She performed with the show for the next 17 years and amazed audiences with her ability to split cards on the edges, shoot the corks of bottles, and put out candles with a shotgun. Oh my god, I'm so sorry about that. I bet you definitely heard that. Someone should have come past the house on a, well, sounded like an hairdryer, but I think it was a scooter. Fact number 3. The Adventures of a Corpse. When Elmer McCurdy robbed a passenger train in 1911 that he believed to contain thousands of dollars, he managed to get away with a whopping $46 and was shot by lawmen. Wow, $46. I don't think that was worth a bullet. But then again, that was probably a lot of money then. body was embalmed with an arsenic substance and sold to travelling carnival as a sideshow. As if that wasn't crazy enough, for the next 60 years he was bought and sold by various haunted houses and wax museums, finally ending up in a funhouse at Long Beach Amusement Park. His identity was only discovered in 1976 when the TV show The $6 Million Man was filming there, and the piece of the prop broke off, revealing human tissue. McCurdy was laid to rest at the Boo Hill Cemetery in Dodge City, Kansas. We are getting so close to the end of the facts and I need to leave for work. I'm gonna be late. Oh well. It's worth it for you guys. Fact number 2. The Good Neighbour. In 1870, a lone traveller found himself invited in for a meal in a family's wood cabin in New Mexico. When he asked the young son where the other Native Americans were, the son replied, "Can't you smell one, Papa? Put under the floor." What? This doomed traveller had fallen upon the lair of Charles Kennedy, an old Western serial killer, oh my god, who killed at least 14 people over the course of his career. I don't think it's a career, unless it means it's like actual career. Kennedy shot the traveller and even beat his son to death for warning the man. Kennedy's wife, grieving her son, ended up finally escaping and making a full confession. Right guys, this is the final fact. Fact number 1, garden party. Also in 1870, a family calling themselves the Benders settled in Kansas. The family opened an inn, and even though they were rumoured to practice magic, they seemed to do a decent business for themselves. But then settlers started to disappear all across the countryside, and body parts turned up in their place. The locals called up a search party to raid every house in the area, but they were put off by bad weather. When they reached the Bend house at last, the family had fled. That didn't stop the search party from finding a trapdoor to a secret basement stained with blood. All the 8 bodies buried in the family's garden. 1870, not a good year. Wow, that is absolutely crazy. Right guys, that is all we have time for on this video. If you're not asleep by now, I'm just going to let you know I am going to try and do a little 1-minute video at some point today and just put it on them shorts just to see what happens and see if it gains me any subscribers or not. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Any more suggestions, feel free to comment below, and yeah, I'll do another poll for the next video. But I think for the next one I am going to do the Persian Empire's one, and then after that, yeah, I'll do another poll and you can all decide on what we do next. But yeah, thank you all for watching, take care, and I'll see you all on the next